Give me your house. It used to belong to my husband. What's wrong with his wife using it? He's a fool, isn't he? Why did he entrust the house to his failed firstborn son instead of his lovely second son? And you, the pathetic wife who married that failure, are leading such a good life. I don't get it. She's right. We deserve to live in this house. You two jerks aren't worthy to live here. If you don't get out of here, we're gonna have to play hardball. Well, you'll just have to struggle through it and give up anyways. The house will eventually be ours. From that day on, my mother-in-law and brother-in-law started harassing me. They were not afraid to use any means necessary, and I finally couldn't take it anymore. Okay, I'll give up the house. They despised and talked bad about my husband, but I couldn't fight back anymore. I couldn't even protect my father-in-law's house. I was so disappointed at myself for not being able to do anything about it. My name is Nadia, and my husband is Derek. Derek's father was the president of a company before his death. He was both strict with his work and kind to his family, and he left Derek and I a luxury home where we now live together. Derek has taken over the company and became the president, and has recently started working abroad on his own for business reasons. The house was too big for just the two of us to live in, so Derek's absence has made it even more lonely. It is a beautiful house with a lot of rooms that my father-in-law left us. Every day, I was busy cleaning and doing laundry while sweating like crazy. Then one day, suddenly the doorbell rang. I went to the front door to see who it was, and there was Jessica, my mother-in-law, and Kevin, my brother-in-law. I have to admit that I didn't have a good feeling about their arrival. These two are the polar opposites of my father-in-law. Jessica is always defending her money, and Kevin was holding some kind of grudge over his brother Derek. I was hoping nothing would happen, as Jessica and Kevin made their way into the house without responding to my greetings. Jessica, stop! What's the problem? It's my husband's house to begin with. I don't like it when you act as if it's yours. Snickering and without any hesitation, Jessica began to explore all the rooms without asking, as if she had come to a viewing. There was no point in warning Jessica. She would never listen to me. I decided to speak to Kevin, who was with her. Kevin, would you please say something to your mother? No way. Kids have to listen to their parents, so I'm not going to do it. Kevin was just like Jessica, and he was amused at my annoyance. Okay, I've decided now. We're moving here. My mother-in-law said to me with a satisfied look on her face as she finished looking around the house. You've got to be kidding me. There was no way she could just show up out of the blue and move in here. No matter what she was, it was unacceptable. Don't be silly. Don't you have the slightest common sense? Raising my voice, I turned them away. How can you be so disrespectful to your husband's mother? What's with that attitude? Jessica was shouting the whole time I was trying to kick them out. Because of her behaviors, it wasn't obvious who was the victim here. I was so embarrassed seeing her so loud and not even caring about the neighbors. Derek isn't here, so what can you do on your own? Jessica gave a nasty smile and pointed at Kevin. Kevin, don't you do anything evil, okay? But do something to make her want to voluntarily leave the house. Roger that. I'll take care of it. Kevin nodded as if it were a matter of course, with a creepy smirk on his face. The two left that day, but there was no way they would stop with just that. I was anxious to see what they would do next, and as expected, the next morning they started to make their move. There was food waste spread in front of our front door. When I saw that they had also mercilessly dumped the waste on the flower bed that my father-in-law had cherished before his death, I was speechless. I managed to clean up the mess and repair the flower bed, but the harassment was just the beginning. I started getting silent phone calls in the middle of the night, and often all the contents of my mailbox were opened up. And to top it all off, there was a paper in my neighbor's mailbox stating that I was having an affair while Derek was away. The neighbor's wife told me that she had received several of these in her mailbox. She suspected the contents and reported it to me, which means there are many people who actually believe this and still keep quiet to me. Little by little, I was getting mentally trapped, and I was close to my limit. I didn't tell Derek because I didn't want to disturb his work, but after about a month of harassment, I finally called him and opened up to him about it. Derek was furious when he heard what I had gone through. Jessica and Kevin's reckless actions are nothing new. Derek is Jessica's stepson and is only half-blood related to Kevin. Jessica never cared for Derek as a son and treated him badly, favoring Kevin over Derek. So, it is understandable that they may feel that it is unfair that Derek is the only one who gets to keep a position in the company, the house, and so on. It is true that my father-in-law was more often on Derek's side than Kevin's during his lifetime. However, it was not just because of his favoritism, but because Derek was a person who put in a lot of effort. Kevin was a bit more cunning than Derek. He was often tempted to use the wrong move in order to get a good result and be praised for it. But his father had no intention of letting Kevin take over the company, as he was spoiled by Jessica, who praised him for his cheating. After his father passed away, the distribution of inheritance caused a complete breakdown of the family relationship, which led to the kind of harassment we have today. Derek has put up with Jessica's harassment for a long time, but now that he knows that it is being directed at me, he has expressed his anger and his refusal to tolerate it. And so, Derek suggested a plan. I nodded in agreement. The next morning, I called up Jessica just to tell her one thing. We have decided to let go of the house. Jessica was obviously overjoyed. She did not yet realize that she had fallen for a plan. A few days later, Jessica and Kevin arrived at the house to move in. But when they came, they were stunned. The house we used to live in was already occupied by the vice president of Derek's company, along with his wife and daughter. The vice president was a good friend of my father-in-law, and was assisting Derek, who was now the president of the company. Both Jessica and Kevin knew of him, so the moment they saw his face, they realized that Derek and I set them up. Jessica and Kevin started shouting at the doorstep of the house that was not theirs. That was the cue for Derek and I to come out from the back of the house. We had talked through our plan with the vice president, so we were able to visit on the day Jessica and Kevin were trying to move in. While Jessica and Kevin's faces turned red, the vice president's wife was giggling uncontrollably in the back of the house, saying she couldn't put on a poker face unlike her husband. "Why do you always get everything?" Unlike Jessica, who was furious, Kevin seemed somewhat sad. "You're the only one who gets favored by Dad. It's true that he left me some money, too, but you got this house, and you're even the president of the company. It's not fair." "It's not fair? He was looking out for you, you know." Derek scolded Kevin in a strong tone. "You've been spending Dad's money like a fool, trying to impress everyone around you. He sent you to different kinds of lessons to get you to change your mind, but you skipped them. You even bought a ton of luxury brand goods for your friends there, just to get them to follow you, and you got all big-headed. And yet, he still shared some of his inheritance with you, because he still believes in you. Don't you think you're going to betray him again?" After that, the vice president placed his hands on Derek's shoulder. Then he stood in front of Kevin and started speaking gently. The former president talked about you all the time, that you're his lovely son, but someone had to be tough on you. He said that even if he doesn't like me in the end, I'll have to do it for my son's sake. Isn't he a wonderful father? When Kevin heard that, he fell silent. His mother was still ranting on about how much he didn't understand the situation, but it was Kevin who stopped her. Kevin led her home. I'm sorry, Derek. Kevin's voice sounded soft and gentle as he left with Jessica. In contrast to the reformed Kevin, Jessica could not give up on the luxurious house. Though Kevin no longer took part in the harassment, Jessica apparently broke in through a window alone while the vice president and his family were away. Since the house had security, she was immediately caught by the police. According to the report, Jessica was sitting on the sofa watching TV when the police rushed in, as if she owned the house. Maybe in Jessica's mind, the house really belonged to her. After Jessica was caught, Derek and I went to visit the vice president's house. Even though it was a consensual plan, a simple apology wasn't enough since the damage was done to the house we had given them. As I was talking to the vice president while handing him a gift of apology, the doorbell rang. The vice president went to the front door and brought in Kevin. I apologize for everything that happened. Kevin bowed deeply as he entered the room. He then told us about what he had gone through. Kevin had been raised by Jessica while feeling the pressure from her to take over as the president of the company. He had cheated in many ways to surpass Derek in some way. Jessica, who did not care about this process, began to praise Kevin for cheating, and it became natural for him to do so. A mother who praises and a father who scolds for cheating. Kevin, caught between the two unbalanced adults, became a distorted adult. And yet, in his heart, he still had his father's righteous teachings lying dormant. The current turmoil has awakened him. It was not that his father had abandoned him, but that he had not faced his father properly. Kevin was shocked to hear the vice president's words that day, and he could no longer turn his back on the differences between himself and his brother, who was the one who inherited many things from their father. This is how it ended up, but it was a chance for Kevin to distance himself from Jessica, and he decided to go on with his life and not to be controlled by her. And he decided to come here first. I wanted to apologize to the vice president for all the trouble I put him through, and to my brother and father for scolding me. I see. You're finally grown up now. But how did you know we're here? Derek looks at the vice president. The vice president smiles happily. I've followed your plan once, so I've got to follow your brother's plan too. I'm on both of your sides. Vice President, man, you've been helping me in my professional and personal life, huh? If my best friend's child says that about me, I couldn't be happier. Derek and Kevin talked for a while after that. Their previously distant relationship was finally restored like that of normal siblings. Derek, I'm going to do what I want to do from now on, not what Mom wants me to do. That's good. What are you going to do then? It's pretty cliché, but I'm thinking of backpacking abroad. I'm going on a journey of self-discovery. Backpacking abroad? I see. That would be a great experience. I'll be rooting for you. Derek smiled, nodded, and patted Kevin on the shoulder. Maybe, when we get settled, we can go visit our dad's graves together. Yeah, I'll be a better man by then. And then, Derek and Kevin parted ways. I soon got pregnant, and Derek decided to officially return as Kevin left the country, like they were taking turns. Although they miss each other like that, I'm sure their connection has become stronger than anyone else's. Kevin now occasionally contacts Derek. This must be a picture taken with some of the children he met. Kevin is smiling happily as he waves at the camera. It's hard to imagine that this is the Kevin I know. Kevin had always been interested in various cultures of the world. He seems to have realized the benefits of working hard and earning a living by working as an interpreter while traveling. Derek seemed happy to see that he no longer had to worry about Kevin. He's always been like this. This country must have been a very tight place for him. He picked up a photo Kevin had sent him and handed me one as well. You'd think so too, don't you, Mom? Derek said, and Jessica, who was sitting next to me, looked remorseful and quietly drank her tea. Jessica had been arrested that day, but had been released at the pleasure of the vice president. In exchange, he had made one condition, that was to give Kevin his freedom. Jessica accepted the condition, but when she saw Kevin looking so happy and free, she must have felt deep regret in her actions. The unruly Jessica was nowhere to be found. Did Kevin not need me? No, he needed you. You just did it the wrong way. She looked at Kevin's picture and sighed. Jessica, I'll go get you another cup of tea. I got up from my seat, and Jessica followed me into the kitchen. I am sorry to ask this now, but I was wondering if you could teach me how to make your tea. I feel like it tastes better than the tea I make. I don't think there's such a difference. I don't do anything unusual. It's just a little trick. Now that Kevin is gone, Jessica has become a sweet woman. She has more time to herself, and I guess she's had some time to think things through. I felt like I could get along with Jessica now. Now that I am about to give birth, the three of us, including Jessica, are living together. As my bump gradually gets bigger and I have difficulty moving around, Jessica helps me with housework and takes care of me. I wonder if this awkwardness between us will disappear by the time my child is born. I sipped the tea that Jessica had made for me and wondering things like that. It was a delicious tea, just the way I like it.